Hello YouTube and welcome to Happy Hour. Hi everybody, my name's Paul and welcome to Happy Hour. Today's a little bit of a follow-up video on a video I did a couple days ago on the Dewars Portuguese Smooth. It was a Dewars, an 8-year-old aged mix of malts and barley, but an 8-year-old whiskey finished in port casks, and it was pretty good. Again, it was $17.99, which was a big deal for me. I thought that was a great price for a pretty interesting, although somewhat basic whiskey. But I compared it to the Kinta Reuben, which is a Glenmorangie, a little more expensive, quite a bit more expensive, maybe $55. But in that I referenced one of the other three of these kind of special editions from Dewars. One of them being the Ilegal, which is finished in Mezcal casks. So I thought I'd kind of do a little bit of a follow-up video and do a quick video on the Ilegal Smooth. So this is a super interesting whiskey. Again, it's aged 8 years. It's going to be a blended Scotch whiskey again. But the kicker is this finished in Mezcal casks. That is just, it's so unique. You know, port casks, sherry casks, bourbon, cognac even. But Mezcal casks, I don't know if there's anyone else doing this. So I usually love kind of testing or kind of doing some A/B comparisons. I really enjoy getting an inexpensive version and then something that's maybe a little more expensive that's trying to maybe be emulated, whether it's port cask finish or sherry cask finish or whatever, just to get it. A/Bing, I think, is really the best way, at least that I'm finding, to kind of build my tasting notes and the ability to discern differences. Most whiskeys that I drink, I enjoy. I think I mentioned that in the last video. I enjoy at one level or another. I've never found anything that I hate. There are some that I like considerably more than others, but I find it interesting to be able to A/B these, and I really, like I said, you really get some notes that jump out when you can taste some contrasts between different pourings, different distilleries and whatnot. Unfortunately, with this one, I got nothing to A/B it against because there's nothing else like it. It's finished in Mezcal. For anybody who doesn't know what Mezcal is, it's basically a simplified version. It's a glorified smoked tequila, really. I think they end up roasting the agave plants that agave's made from or tequila's made from agave plants, and they end up roasting them overnight or something like that, and you get this really unique smoky finish. It's not quite as intense as like some of the Ileys as far as peated smoke goes, but from a Mezcal standpoint, you get that rounded smoky finish. With the kind of the sourness and the interesting of tequila. So it kind of fits. It kind of makes sense, right? I guess if you think of it from a Scotch standpoint, to finish it in Mezcal, there's a lot of, if you're familiar with Mezcal, there's a lot of the nuances, I think, that kind of work with Scotch a little bit. So that being said, let's dive in. As you can see, I've already tasted this quite a few times. But I thought it deserved a kind of it's been a few weeks, so it's going to be kind of fresh on my head, but there's no getting around the fact that this is Mezcal. I can just smell it when I open the bottle. All right. Yeah, it's fascinating. It's totally overpowering. Like, it doesn't smell like there's Mezcal in my Scotch. But you can smell it. You can really smell it. For me, to simplify it for Mezcal, the two most prominent smells or scents I get are smokiness and that sour kind of tequila smell, and together they work. Yeah, they really do work. There's obviously kind of a relatively basic Scotch below that, but there's that sourness and that little bit of smoke on the top end. It's really interesting. And again, like I said in the Portuguese Smooth video, this is $17.99 a bottle. So, I don't know. It's pretty interesting. Let's give it a taste. It's pretty good. Again, there's not a ton of depth. I do get a little bit of the smokiness and that sourness upon the initial taste. Maybe it's part of the smell that's kind of combining with it, but the main taste itself is a pretty basic, kind of tastes like, a straight ahead blended whiskey. But then on the end, I get a little bit of, again, a bit of that smoke. It's, again, for this price point, I think it's super interesting. I love that, distilleries and brands are trying to kind of do different things. And especially at this kind of a price point, to play around with some new ideas and some new finishings and offer them at an accessible price point. A lot of us don't mind spending $50, $60, $70 on a bottle of scotch, but I know there's a lot more people that don't mind spending $18 to try something, and especially to try something unique. So, like I said, I wish I could A/B this with something that's even in the ballpark, but there really isn't. There isn't. Yeah, and the more you let it sit and kind of breathe a bit, I guess, there's that sour smokiness on the front end. It sounds really odd, I know, but I swear to God, it's good. Like, I would have no problem paying $25 or $30 for this now that I've tasted it. Again, it's not super complex. It's just the fact that there's that, it's just unique and different. I've tried so many scotches over the years that, again, I've liked them all for the most part, but there's so many scotches in particular, whiskeys in general, but scotches in particular, that just kind of don't really jump out to me. And again, it may be my palate is not that nuanced, but there's a lot of scotches that are just kind of like, yeah, it's pretty good, but nothing really jumps out. Now, there are a handful that I have come across and started to build my collection on, which we'll go through over some new videos, but that to me offer something very unique or specialized. But yeah, this is really cool. This is really interesting. $17.99 a bottle. Again, here in Chicago. I got a comment on my other video that the Portuguese Smooth from somebody who watched it was like $22 in Georgia, but I think under 25 pretty much for either of those, it's a good buy. So check it out. Thanks for watching. Stay tuned.